All right. Well, I know our chairperson is not here yet. However, I want to be respectful of people's time. Maybe to buy her a couple of seconds. We do have some reasonably good news. Ryan, do you want to talk about the Patterson grant and how it's going to be used?
Sure. So actually just yesterday, we found out that we received a $20,000 grant from the George S. and Helen S. and George G. Patterson Foundation. They've supported us in the past for things like exhibits, programming, and other programs, but this is actually a grant for virtual programming. So we had originally talked with them about scholarships for school groups, but with that, obviously, everything changing with that, we did a last minute kind of switch and had good discussions with them, and they were in agreement that that would be a good approach. So $20,000 for over the coming year for a variety of virtual programming.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Christy and Ryan did a nice job on that write-up. We're going to talk about virtual programming in part 3 of our agenda. And my buying of time seems to have worked out well, as it looks like Jennifer is in the process of joining us. We'll give her a second to jump in.
I think I'm here.
All right, we don't see you, but we hear you.
I can't get myself to come in, so
You're
See
good.
I'm here.
Yeah, we have everything now. Jennifer, we didn't officially really start the meeting, but we were just bantering about Ryan and Christy did a good job writing a grant proposal to the Patterson Foundation and got $20,000 for virtual programming, which we'll talk about in part 3 of the agenda. So,
Okay.
I'm pleased to say we've got full participation in the committee today. So Jennifer, would you like me to run through the agenda, or would you like to do so?
So I guess we're starting with the review of the fiscal year 2020 financials.
Jonathan, would you like to handle that?
Sure thing. So going into the close of the year, we did lose some of our spring programs. So we saw just revenue shortfalls in the general areas that you would expect to see revenue shortfalls. Admissions still look good. We were on pace for the best year so far. And then you see souvenirs kind of trailed behind that a bit. I think that'll be a trend that continues as people get back to work. You have to buy a ticket to get in. You do not have to buy snacks and stuffed animals kind of on entry. So we'll see that number lag behind until the economy kind of gets running again. Really the big, it's not a miss, the money's there, and we're working on getting Richmond to approve the pavilion to the rear of the building. As soon as construction starts on that, you'll see the restricted gifts foundation grants really see an increase. The money's there. It's accumulating interest as we speak. So we're just waiting on Richmond to give us the go-ahead to find a contractor and move forward on that. All the plans are in, so the drawings, they have submitted their final review there. So we hope to hear back as soon as they get back to us. We did, I guess, looking at your expenses, we made some adjustments there going into the end of the year. The governor kind of gave us the direction to stop spending on anything discretionary, keep the building open, pay people salaries. And we were able to do that. They also asked us to pledge a certain amount, whatever we thought would not hurt us in the end. And with our adjustments, we made a pretty sizable pledge to the state that goes to healthcare workers, healthcare facilities, where the state bought masks from other states. And really just the budget was a pool for the COVID, I guess, pandemic spending. That being said, this year it looks pretty good. We've gotten our full budget returned to us, but then we are waiting to hear back from the meeting that'll start on the 18th about the budget and special projects. So everything else looks good. Things are running as scheduled. Near the end of the fiscal year, they allowed us to go ahead and spend on things that we had traditionally spent on. Insurance, we pay that a year in advance, some subscriptions, and then memberships to other museums. Pretty much if we could show a track record of having paid for them before, they allowed us to go ahead and pay for them again. just through a couple emails with our budget analyst, and they gave us the approval on that. And that's kind of the summary there.
And I'll also bring up one of the things we were allowed to do and did was we stocked up on personal protective equipment and things like hand sanitation stations and whatnot to kind of prepare for reopening, which of course we did. Does anyone remember how far back it's been? All a wash for me.
First,
It's been it's been at least
mid-June.
4 or 5
A
weekends.
month,
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah, it's been about 4 or 5 weekends we've been open, and we're steadily getting around 100 people per weekend. So it's going to make these numbers this year really low, but there's not much we can do about it. So I don't know that this is really the committee for discussing programming, but we did do a drive-through reptile festival, which saw about 100 people. We did a drive-through dinosaur festival, which unfortunately caught us kind of by surprise.
Oversubscribed.
In other words, the lot got so full, we had to actually get police help to direct traffic. So, so we are looking outward to the community. And right now, I'm working with the city of Waynesboro to bring the dinosaur festival. They have for those of you who've been there, there's a very sizable lot. Used to be the old DuPont parking lot, much larger than ours. And so we're going to work with the city to set up a similar experience there. And we're also talking, just because, I mean, the drive-through format it's challenging, right? It's just challenging to get people through. Some people were waiting an hour and a half before they got to the first station. So we're talking about selling time tickets and limiting the number that we sold. So we calculated how many cars we can do at any one point. But so we're going to try to make this a revenue generator, probably sometime in October is when we're targeting the date, and the city's working with us to pick an appropriate date that will, potentially complement other activities going on around the city that day. So more on that in the future. So thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
This is
Did you
Nathan.
make,
Can you hear me?
I'm sorry.
I think Nathan's trying to ask a question. Nathan, your volume's a little bit low. I don't know why.
So maybe I just need to be closer to the microphone. I'm kind of wondering a little bit about under revenues, this federal funds budgeted versus received. There's a big gap there. Is there an explanation for that one?
Federal funds, those are current, what we've paid out for the entire project. The $82,401 were the expenses for the geologic study for, I believe, the uranium cores. 6,418 that would be what we spent this year, closing that account out. So we're working through, you don't receive them until you spend it. And then, so it looks like there's a discrepancy there. But we have received the entire $82,401. We just have to spend it first before receiving it. And the $6,418 is all we allocated this year to the
But we
project.
anticipate still using it, the full
Sorry?
amount? Do we still anticipate using the full amount?
I think that project is wrapped up.
Yeah, I think that final report has been submitted. Just as a quick summary for those of you who might not remember, but we had for many, many years stored our rock core specimens at an offsite facility that we didn't own. And that facility, it was always inappropriate. It wasn't good for museum specimens. So we received money from the Institute of Museum and Library Sciences. And so basically what we ended up having to do was, as Jonathan indicated, was we had to spend on the project, which included moving trucks and whatnot, and then improving the annex behind Douglas Avenue, and in doing so, move the rock core over there. We came in quite a bit under budget in terms of the work that we did, but as Jonathan implied, it's one of those things where when you incur an expense for a moving vehicle, you're going to get new racking for the specimens to be stored and so forth. We get a reimbursement. So, so yeah, it looks like it's like they held out on us, but that's not so. And that project is pretty well wrapped up.
Okay, thank you for answering that. One other question, I'm sort of in a similar situation myself while we wait for the state to figure out what they're going to do. Since the new year's already started, are you using just the same, are you just rolling over the same budget and using that one, or are you just not going to have a budget until we know what the state's going to do?
We have temporary budget that we've kind of know what we're going to receive for the first 3 months. We went ahead and used the numbers in the budget bill as kind of a guide. And then from there, we'll extrapolate whatever the changes are. So the next board meeting will be more exciting, and we'll have some more information on the full budget through the end of the year.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Yeah, Nathan, if you look at the June minutes, if I'm not mistaken, the board did approve a budget for this current fiscal year, full well recognizing that we just have to understand that it's a fluid situation upcoming. So we really the change between this year's budget and last year's budget is that we had to target some reductions in revenue because we're not going to have school programs, at least, certainly not traditional, while we're kind of experimenting with some new techniques, and the Patterson money will help address some of that. And the other thing, of course, is we're anticipating vastly decreased attendance. I don't see running a festival during this fiscal year. I mean, we'll be prepared if things turn on a dime and suddenly the environment's safe for bringing together big crowds. Of course, we'll go ahead and do it. But for now, we're just not anticipating that to be a reality.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Question for you. Did you
Yes,
make
sir.
any money on the dinosaur drive-through?
No, that was a freebie, Barry, and I'm kind of glad we didn't charge anything because while it was in a sense a success, it was also, we were stumbling quite a bit. I think we've learned a lot from running these two, and so that's why
I'm sure.
Yeah, when we do the next one, I think we can sell these time tickets to make sure people know to come. You can come through the entryway between 3 and 4 p.m., and that will prevent that crush of people kind of rushing the gates.
Very good.
Are we ready to move on?
Yeah, I think
I think we kind of talked about fiscal year 2021 budget. Anything more to add on that?
no.
Okay. So I guess let's move on to Roman numeral 2, new fundraising marketing system and museum website.
Yeah, so I'll be happy to go over that. And the reason we included it with this committee meeting, it's directly related to fundraising, but also museum revenue. So basically, we're in the process now of implementing an entirely new both fundraising and marketing system. So it's called Razor's Edge. I think we talked about it a little bit at the last board meeting, but we're further along, and our goal still, unless Zach has new information, is to roll this out the end of August or early September. And it's going to be along with a new website. So we're working hard on that behind the scenes. Basically, it's going to allow us to do a lot of new things. As far as events, we can do pre-sales of tickets. So we can do not only the pre-sale of the ticket itself, but the registration. So people can pick their seat. They can pick their arrival time if we're talking about timed events. We can also do lots more email marketing. So we can integrate, not only do you learn about the events or the programs, but you can directly register within that email. So education will benefit from this. Whether it's homeschool groups, in the future when we go back to school groups, it's going to enable us to streamline what we do as far as registration. We can also do things like automatic payments. So we're all probably familiar with the NPR model of, you can give $120 per year or $10 a month. So it's going to free up some creativity there. People can do a pledge system, which of course ties in with the capital campaigns that we do. We can do automatic payments for pledges as well. And finally, it's there's a lot more to it, but things like email notifications for memberships. So right now, folks get the paper reminders, but we can also do the email reminders as well. So you can get those kind of more in your face sort of reminders, whether it's memberships, Discovery Fund, things like that. So it's a huge project. Lots of staff are working on this. Zach, myself, Jonathan, a lot of folks. But yeah, we'll hopefully have this rolled out well before the next board meeting. So very exciting.
Very good.
Yeah, I think it'll open up some nice avenues for communication and, keeping people abreast of, what we're doing, what our needs are.
Absolutely.
Question.
Yes.
Well, how much of your old data are you going to be able to import into this thing, like your old purchases and attendance? And I mean, is this going to become like the new repository for all the touch points for all the people that kind of hit the museum in one way or another?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So all of our historical data will roll over. So whether that's donor records, things like that, that will all be rolled over. But it's going to be much easier going forward. Whereas now it's kind of a manual process to, if we talk to a donor prospect or a current donor, we have to manually add those in the notes section. So this will be more streamlined. So as the gifts come in, it'll automatically populate that. We'll also have a better record if a longtime donor buys tickets to the gala or takes part in another program, it'll automatically populate that as well. So we can not only see what they've given, but see how engaged they are and how many events they've attended, things like that.
Yeah, I'm
Very
wondering of the non-donors, like if people buy in the gift store and that kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's something that we can kind of modify. So, and we talked about that with the system designers is basically how many people do we want to capture? And the pricing is based on user records. So it could escalate pretty quickly. So that's something we just need to set as far as, who do we need to capture? Who do we want to capture? Maybe we don't capture everyone who buys a coffee, but maybe we include everyone who obviously buys gala tickets. So we'll kind of set that bar.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the traditional sales funnel. If you need, 1,000 people to get you in some way or form, which translates into, 50 gala tickets, which translates into 25 donors. I mean, at one point do you start tracking, I guess, was where I was going.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's kind of open-ended, and as we develop the system and see how many records we're going to keep, because part of the transfer is going to be a purge of obsolete records, which can be tricky. We don't want to, even if somebody hasn't given in several years, we don't necessarily want to cut them off. So that's kind of the work we're doing now, is to answer all these questions.
Okay, great. And the other systems are still going to remain in place, though?
It's within the same company. So they're going to do the transfer, and basically it's going from a local server to a cloud-based system. So we'll be able to, as we work from home or work remotely, we can, right now, the only way to access it is at the museum at 3 different workstations, which is pretty 20th century. So yeah, this will open up a lot more flexibility for us as we're on the road or, in Richmond, wherever we're at, we can automatically enter data.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thanks.
Now, is this all a part of Racer's Edge?
Correct, Barry. That's right.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions? All right, we can move to item 3, fiscal year 2021 activities and programs. I think, Joe, you've alluded to some of this already, but.
Yeah. So the virtual programming, we're going along a couple of routes already, and this Patterson grant will help expand them. So right now, we're working with a talented fella who's deferring graduate school. He's putting together a 3-dimensional tour for us, and what we're looking at is if Christy, say, gave a virtual tour from the museum, she would walk around the galleries with a cart that's got a camera and a monitor on it. And that works out pretty well. But one thing that you lose from that is the ability for the students to, self-guide. So they usually, when they're here, they get a 20 minutes or a half hour or something like that, and they go through and self-explore through the galleries. Well, with the virtual museum, we can do that. So I don't have a timeline on that right now. Part of it too is that we're waiting on we bought a special camera that allows us to do 360-degree photographs of the galleries and so forth. So so right now we're like so many institutions, we're tinkering. I've got regular communication with the other state museums, and we've been bantering back and forth with one another with different ideas. We've tried this and it didn't work, or we tried this and it did work. So we're kind of open to trying out a new way to serve, and how receptive the schools will be while they're, challenged with everything from distancing to having virtual content of their own that they have to deal with, just remains to be seen. So, yeah, more on that in the future. One of the other things we're working on is a membership drive. And so a number of staff and some board members have done 30-second videos. And I forget the time period that we thought when does schools officially start around here? Can someone refresh my memory?
I think it's Monday
Of next week?
this week.
No, okay. All right.
I
Well,
think.
sometime soon. We're still getting
Yeah,
the materials
really.
to Zach. We're going to start posting these. It's going to be a membership drive. So basically talking about what we're doing at the museum these days, how we're still pushing forward, and that your membership helps us meet our mission. So, you can start to look out for those on our social media and so forth. Another idea that we're tinkering around with is the ability to rent the museum while we're open for business, but closed to the public. So right now we're open Friday through Sunday. We're kind of putting together a package whereby it looks something like, we still have to clean this up a bit, but that someone can make a reservation and they and their family can pay a flat fee, like $50 or something like that. And they can come to the museum, and we'll put some refreshments out in the cafe area that they can help themselves with. And then there's going to be various activities like a scavenger hunt for the kids. And then, so what we'll do is when we get the reservation, we'll just turn the galleries on temporarily until they have their hour-and-a-half block of time. They leave and we shut everything down and do a cleaning. So we're going to see if that's something that people desire or not. I think it'd be kind of cool myself. Yeah, more to come on that. And I've already talked about the drive-through experiences. So again, this is all hovering around, what is going to stick with the public? How are we going to separate them from their money, right? And,
Exactly.
to start to generate a funding stream that doesn't look like what it looked like last year. So Zach, Ryan, Jonathan, you guys want to add anything to that?
I would just point out that part of the membership drive, the membership drive will use the new system that I talked about earlier. So that's going to help us do a lot of really creative things, integrated video within the email marketing, and easy way to join. We don't want people to have to click too much. So it's all kind of tying together.
All right, good. Anybody else?
If I can ask a question,
Sure.
and I'll jump in. Obviously, this is my first meeting, and as you may have figured out, I tend to lean more toward marketing than finance. But I'm just in light of some of the things that are happening in the news lately, and looking at new membership, new vehicles, and targeting populations that we may not have hit before in any hard fashion. I'm just curious, at what point does this committee look at overall marketing and touch points for the year in terms of people that we do hit normally and people that we haven't hit? And for example, the videos you mentioned, I wondered what languages some of those videos may be created on to get other populations that may not be served as often as they normally are, realizing that we are a statewide museum. So just curious, not that, having been on both sides of this wall, not that we're trying to get into your shorts, but as an oversight overview committee, how do we look at what the museum is doing in terms of the audiences that it touches, and how do we expand those audiences that may not have gotten as much attention as most audiences have gotten in the past?
I think that would be great. And I know we're open, especially to experiences, in other words, stuff that a board member has seen work in the past, and it might be something we're not doing. It would be great to be able to integrate that into what we are doing. We do have kind of an evolving document that we update periodically. It's kind of the marketing kind of assemblage. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah, so it's an overall advancement plan. And within that, there's a marketing plan that we kind of update every year based on what we know is coming up and what our goals are. Then this year, it's just completely different. So yeah, that's something we could share with you, Roberta.
Share with the whole committee.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
So is there a formal subset of this that focuses on marketing, or are we just kind of lump it all together in one committee meeting?
Well, I think what we had in the past, Roberto, well, first of all, just for a little bit of history, when I first started at VMH, we had 25 rather than 15 trustees. The state then cut that back. So now we're down to 15. But back in the day when we had 25 committees, a lot of these committees met separately. So for instance, this one being a combination of finance and marketing, those were two separate committees in the past. But when we had fewer trustees and too many people sitting on too many committees, they were combined. So if there is a topic of marketing that any trustee on the committee wants to broach, we're all ears.
Okay, let me noodle on that a little bit.
Okay. Well, we'll share the advancement document with everyone. Please, look it over. If you see holes, let us know. Or if there are places that we have a propensity to be creative or can be creative, would love to hear it.
I'm really talking even at a higher level than just advancement. I'm talking everything from marketing pieces to website to communications to press releases. I mean, the whole touch points of the entire demographic of the state, let's say. So it's even above just advancement.
Good. Well, we'll get with you.
Joe,
make
you're
sure
going
that,
to talk about the scavenger hunt, right?
Any feedback from the chair, please?
No, I think nothing. Someone asked about the scavenger hunt?
Yeah.
Yeah, Barry, that's what gets lumped in with that idea that when we're closed to the public Monday through Thursday, that we're putting together a package we want to put out there that if somebody, and we haven't come up with hard numbers, how much this would cost. But this would give somebody the opportunity to rent the entire museum for, say, an hour-and-a-half slot. So you could have a family of 4 or 6 people or something like that. And so we would leave out these activities for the kids. So, you're not just, especially if you've been to the museum before, right?
Okay.
You might not do this, but if we put out, the education team has put together an example of a scavenger hunt that will allow them to go through the museum and maybe look at it with different eyes. And then if they complete the scavenger hunt, they get some kind of prize. Again, we had some ideas like, each of the kids gets a cast dinosaur tooth or something like that. So
it's related to the membership drive.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, it's about opening things up to the public in a different way.
For sure.
And making sure that people, and a member, of course, if they rent the museum, the member gets a discounted rate.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be another benefit of membership. So
Very
again,
good.
how much demand is there? Well, I'm not too worried about this because we're not going to invest much in the way of any money up front, just a couple of bucks for refreshments and so forth. And if it turns out that this is something that connects and we regularly get groups that are doing it, then this is a new way that we can offer the museum experience in a safe fashion. And if it's something that just flops, that people just don't connect with it, that's fine. We haven't invested anything in it.
I like the idea.
You can be the first one to go on the scavenger hunt, Barry.
Yeah, really.
All right, good stuff. We'll keep
Yeah.
everyone posted on that.
Okay.
Robert, to your point, we haven't had a finance and marketing committee meeting in a long time, right, Joe?
That's correct.
Yeah. So this is the first one we've had in quite a while. So hopefully we can kind of get on a more regular schedule with that.
That's what Tom's objective is to do just that with each of the committees. And frankly said, I mean, even if this were not a pandemic, I think we can easily pull these off with Zoom meetings, even post-pandemic if we need to. You know, part of the challenge was always pulling people together from disparate areas, you know, from Danville to Martinsville to Richmond and whatnot. But if we could stick with this format, I think we can continue to meet regularly.
Yeah, I think it would be good, and, you know, welcome any suggestions or that sort of thing, to kind of things that we need to look at as a committee.
Okay.
Any other questions on Roman numeral 3? We'll move to Roman numeral 4, capital projects. I guess this is what, Waynesboro and finishing up the pavilion?
Yes. I'll let Jonathan go through the pavilion, but I'll just let you know, as far we've done everything we can as far as Waynesboro goes, and we're continuing to. So the Waynesboro Advocacy Committee is still active. And so at the last 2 meetings, we planned out some focus groups. So in other words, we're going to get specific people together with specific backgrounds, such as educators or environmentalists and watershed groups and so forth, and bring them together electronically for discussions of the Waynesboro campus exhibit narrative. And the idea is to see if it really connects with these people. And, if so, can we flesh out a broader story? Because right now the exhibit narrative is it's around 10 pages. It's written at a 10,000 foot level. But since we're unfortunately delayed in moving forward to detailed planning, the idea is, what can we do now to make things easier on us when we get to the detailed planning phase? So in advance, we're going to go ahead and over the next upcoming months, we'll do these little focal groups electronically. So we're continuing to work with that. And as Jonathan pointed out earlier, the General Assembly gets together on August 18th. And I don't personally have a timeline as to when productive news will come out of Richmond, but probably in late August, early September, we'll have a little better idea as to what's going on.
Definitely. And only to add to that, the other project we have in the works is the Douglas roof, which is in the same position. Final drawings that we've sent the roof samples, we've sent the drawings, and the architect has been in contact with with Richmond on getting that finalized as well. So there seems to be a bit of a backlog, but they're working through them. They're in contact with us, so it's not like it's not a one-sided conversation. It's a two-way conversation. Getting these projects in the works and making sure the funds are available and that we can keep moving forward on.
And just as an aside, with that particular project, that's a maintenance reserve project. So just to quickly review, every agency each year gets a certain amount of money based upon the square footage of their entire operations and so forth. And so we stockpiled some maintenance reserve specific to address some of the long-term issues with Douglas Avenue. That, of course, made it into our strategic plan. And of course, the first logical step was to get a new roof put on it. So we had been, the last decade, we've been patching it, but it's gone beyond its life expectancy. So it's time for a replacement. So those funds, just to be clear, those funds do not come out of our annual operating budget. And it can only be used on large scale projects, $25,000 and larger. And Jonathan, you kind of walked through the pavilion, right? I think you talked about that earlier.
A bit earlier, yes.
Yeah.
Due to the funding from the foundation,
Yeah.
money coming from there. So we're just waiting on the architects to review and approve.
Yeah, as Jonathan said, there does seem to be a bit of a backup. They've never been known to be high speed getting information out of Richmond, but it seems now even slower.
I was just going to throw in sorry, a big chunk of the funding for the pavilion was grant funding, and we've been in contact with all the funders, Harvest Foundation, Tobacco Commission. They're aware of the situation, obviously, and all the reports have been filed, so we're in good shape there. We're keeping them up to date.
I've been in communication with the people who've made donations to the pavilion and so forth. So, yeah, we're keeping everyone in the loop, and everyone's understanding. Just have to conduct business as best we can.
What's the total cost of the pavilion now?
Well, that's a good question, Barry. We're going to have to look at price escalation. The cost was, Jonathan, was it what, 160?
167, I think.
Okay, 167. You can, now don't forget, Barry, we raised far in excess of that. So
Yeah,
we're in good,
for
we're in good
sure.
shape still, but price escalation is a real thing. So since we are going to be, 6 to 10 months behind schedule because of the pandemic or whatever it turns out to be,
Right.
it's going to be slightly higher. What were we using, Jonathan? Was it 7% escalation?
It's 4.5 from the state, but yeah, so around 7% total on the entire project. And a portion of the project is going to be maintenance reserve as well. The stairs, architect came up with an issue there that the state will end up having to solve in sync with the funds raised from private donors. So that takes the project over 200,000, but the state will, our maintenance reserve funds will make up the difference.
It'll be a good improvement back there.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
So I guess now we're at the questions and comments portion.
Yeah, that's for you all. I think we've reported on our planned activities.
I think you're doing everything you can at this point.
Okay, so just for logistics, Jennifer, I've taken some notes. So I'm going to take the liberty of sending you some draft minutes. So if you wouldn't mind just looking it over to make sure that you're in agreement with them.
Sure.
And we can have hard copies of the minutes from this meeting available on Saturday. What am I doing? You're not coming here. We'll email them out. So yeah, still hard.
I won't
hard
be
to
at the
think that-
meeting on Saturday, so if somebody can give the report in my absence.
Yeah, I don't know if Nathan or Roberto or Barry would like to report out since Jennifer cannot attend the Zoom meeting on Saturday. And
This is Nathan. I can do is provided I have the notes beforehand.
okay, well, I'll share my draft minutes with you as well. So if you could put your eyes on it to make sure we're all in agreement with that. I think that'd be good. And then as a follow-up, we'll make sure to get the advancement report out, which also includes our marketing methodology and so forth. And we'll work to schedule another one of these meetings in between the August and November board meetings. And of course, do so by Zoom.
Thanks for doing the report, Nathan.
Happy to do it.
What's the meeting on the 18th?
That's the General Assembly is reconvening to
Oh,
look at budget
okay.
projections. Yeah,
Okay, good.
hopefully we get
Okay.
some positive news out of that.
Good.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? I guess we can adjourn the meeting.